Welcome to Beyond Barber School. I am your host, Barbara Doza. This podcast, Beyond Barber School, is a space where listeners will hear stories from barbers, educators, and founders that are elevating the barbering industry in and out of the barbershop. Our hope here is to empower barbers with the knowledge necessary to take a courageous next step in their barber journey. Welcome to Beyond Barber School. We are doing a mini-series called The Guideline. This mini-series is where I'll share my perspective on a specific topic and get very, very practical. Hope here is still the same, that you'll hear my story, a little bit more about my journey, and ultimately be empowered with knowledge to take a strategic next step in your business. I hope you enjoy the series called The Guideline. Today's topic is how to start your business. And again, another topic that I feel like has come across just as I've met barbers in the industry. Some of them have their business license, some of them don't have a business license, some have their business bank account, some don't. And I just want to talk a little bit about my perspective on it, my journey. I had a pretty funny journey, a lot of trial and error and learning and making mistakes as I got my business license. And so this was going to be a little bit more personal, a little bit more about my story in today's episode. And hopefully you'll get a chance to, learn from my mistakes and don't do the same things that I did. And it will probably save you a lot of time. But yeah, so some context for this conversation. Again, I just want to acknowledge our community, our barbering community. There's room for everybody, right? There's room to run your business many different ways. And I'm not here to tell you exactly how to run your business or what you need to do, but I just want to share a little bit about what I've done and why I did it the way I did it, and take what you want from it. Hopefully it will help you to reevaluate your situation or just think about ways for you to improve. Again, the hope is for you to hear something in this podcast and that will help you take a courageous next step, whatever that next step makes sense for you and your situation. So for me, this context of business license, I try to do my best to do research and just understand what people are saying about it. There's some great, obviously, resources out there. I didn't go to business school or anything. I do have my 4-year, my bachelor's degree. I went to school for 4 years. I studied communications, but my degree did not prepare me to become a business owner. I didn't study business. But as I've done some research, there's a ton of great influencers and educators even on Instagram talking about business. I feel like it's a really cool time right now. I know I talk about the guys at Earn Your Leisure a lot, but they have great content, and the people they interview is just really great content right now that's on Instagram. And there's a big benefit, right, of separating your business from your personal expenses. Even having a personal account versus a business account, having that designated account, even to know, all right, anything that comes in is money that was made because of my business. Any money that's going out is money that has been spent on my business. I do not, mingle personal and business expenses, because I want to make it clear, even when it comes tax season, how much money did I make? How much money did I spend? It's just cleaner when you have the separation. And in order to even get the bank account, which honestly was the big reason why I went on the journey to get my business license and to do all the things, was because you can't just walk into a bank and be like, I want to open up a business bank account. There's actually steps that you need to go through before the banker actually lets you open one up, right? So let's talk about my journey. It's going to be kind of funny. I was definitely like fish out of water as I was figuring out all these things. And so it's going to be kind of story time today. So I got my barber license and passed the test. I had a job that was lined up. I got hired to be at a booth rental barbershop. And my shop owner was maybe a little bit different than most shop owners. He actually, and maybe this is normal for some, but I didn't know if it was normal amongst the whole industry. But he made me sign a lease. And on paper, he wanted me to have a business license, because for him, he had an LLC. And it was just protection for him as the shop owner. Being booth rent, he was needed to have a paper trail that said Barber Doza is renting from, his barbershop LLC. There needed to be that clear agreement or like even boundary that was set between two businesses, which makes sense, right? Especially as you even consider like booth rental barbershops, booth rental, shop owners would be like, it's their own business. Like they do their own thing. And so it's like, yeah, they're their own business. They should have their own business license, business bank account, right? There should be a paper trail that actually says that they're a business. So one thing my shop owner told me, because this is just how he runs his shop, was he was like, you need to go get a business license. And in doing that, he's just like, I recommend you open up a business checking account. So at that point, I was like, okay, well, I didn't know what to do. Like no one had told me what to do. In barber school, we hadn't really talked about this. And so the shop owner was like, go to the city's office and you can apply for a business license there. And then I was like, all right, then what? And he's like, then go to the bank and then you should be able to open up your business checking account. So I was like, all right, shouldn't be too bad. I should, it should only take like a few hours in an afternoon or whatnot. So I go to the city's office and I applied for a sole proprietor business license. I think it cost me like $347, which it costs a little bit more because I was in the downtown district of my city versus the not downtown district. It would have been cheaper if I was not in downtown. So it cost me $347. And I'm like, dang, okay, that's more than maybe I had thought. I'm like, okay, all right, I guess that works. My next stop then was, I was like, all right, got my applied for it, got my business license. It might have taken actually some time for it to process. And then once I had it, I was like, all right, let's go open up my bank account. So I go to the bank and I had my business license, I had my barber license, and had my driver's license. I was like, okay, I should be good. So I go in, I'm all confident. I think I was like all dressed up, like put on my Jordans, or just was feeling myself, because I'm like, all right, cool. I'm gonna go get my business license, or not my business license. I'm gonna go get my bank account. So I walk in. I'm like, all right, I want to open up a business checking account, and banker asked me a question. All right, where's your DBA? And I was like, DBA? Right, I live on the Central Coast. The first thing that came to my mind when I heard DBA was the double barrel ale from Firestone Brewery. And so I didn't know what a DBA was. And he was like, oh, well, you need a DBA, which I come to find out is called doing business as. And again, I didn't know what this was. The shop owner didn't talk to me about this. Barber school didn't talk to me about this. So I was like, asking the banker, like, what's that? And then you got to go to the county to go get doing business as. So I was like, all right, I guess I got to go there. So then I go over to the county office. I had to like Google where the county office was. I'd never been to it before. And I have to apply for a doing business as, which was $57. And so what I learned about the doing business as was essentially like doing business within the county. It like gives me authorization to do it within the county. And I was like, okay, like $57, I guess. So then I do that. And then the county, they're like, okay, next what you need to do is you have to go to the newspaper office, the New Times Slow, and you have to go run an ad for like 2 weeks or something like that in order for my DBA to get verified. So this costs another $59. And so I was like, dang, okay, I got to go over there now. So essentially what it was, to my understanding, was like the county needs to announce like this opening up of a new business. So there's this like section in the newspaper that lists out all the new businesses in town. And I guess that like legitimizes your business. At least that was my understanding. So I go there, pay the additional $59. So it's $347 for this business license. Then it's $57 for this DBA that will last like 5 years. The business license is something that I would have to renew every year. And then it's like $59 for me to run this ad within the newspaper. I'm like, all right, whatever, I got to do what I got to do, take all my money. So finally I get the DBA goes through, the ad, runs through the newspaper. And so now it's been a couple weeks because I had to wait for all this to process and for the ads to run through the newspaper. So finally I get it in the mail, I think. And I go and back to the bank. I'm like, all right, here we go. I got my business license. I got my DBA, which is doing business as, which is like Matthew Mendoza is doing business as Barberdoza. Like, I guess, again, my understanding is it like links my business to my personal name. It's just like the bridge there. And it also obviously gives me verification to do business within the county. So I go and I have my barber license. So I have my DBA, barber license, and business license, driver's license. So I go sit down at the bank. I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go. Like, I did all these things. Like, here's my DBA, whatnot. And they're like, okay, cool. And they actually, as they were looking through the paperwork that I gave them, they were like, we don't need your barber license. And I was like, wait, what? Like, I spent 1,500 hours here. This is the one that cost me the most, and it took the hardest amount of work to get. And they're like, yeah, we don't care about that. Which one is super interesting, because it's like, oh, like you can open up a barber shop and not be a barber. Like, that's actually true. And so, I don't know, put some things in perspective as I thought about it. Like, when you think about the state board of barbering, what they govern is different than what the city governs or the county governs. Like, there's just different organizations or entities that have different responsibilities. And clearly the bank doesn't care about my barber license, which just state board cares about my barber license if they're going to come in and do, their check or whatever, do their rounds, and they're going to go to your shop. Like, they care about your barber license. They're not going to care if you have a business license or anything. They just care if you have a barber license. So it's interesting knowing about, okay, depending upon who is coming to my business and like auditing me or checking on me, knowing what license you need to protect yourself from possible consequences. So anyway, so I sit down, I'm at the bank. They don't care about my barber license. They take everything else. And then the next question the banker asked me, I was like, confused. They was like, all right, do you want to, create your account under your social security number, or do you want to do it under your EIN, right? Your employer identification number. And I was like, I don't even know what an EIN is. And so I was like, I'll just do my social security, because I didn't have patience. I was like, man, I'm here. I just want to get this done with. Like, I've had to jump through so many hoops just to get this done. So I was just like, social security. And so I go back, and obviously later I learned what an EIN is. It's like, even with your W-2, whatever employer that you work for, every company, every employer has like an identification number. And so with the IRS, like, there's that ID number that every business has. And so it's actually free to go create your own EIN on like the irs.gov website, which I eventually did. And now I submit my taxes under my business EIN, but at the time I had no idea what it was. So I'm done. Like, I applied, decided to do Social Security, and it was all good. A week later, I think my business debit card arrived in the mail, which had like my business name on it, which was pretty cool. And I like was able to show my wife and be like, yo, look at me. I'm like a business owner. Like, look at my business license, my DBA, like, check out my debit card, like it was just a cool feeling. And so I share all these things just because I do want to just let you know that you're not alone. Like, I feel that, unfortunately, like, we weren't really prepared for starting your own business, being a barber. And, we talk about it all the time, like, I'm a barber, I'm my own business, I'm a small business owner, and there's certain hoops that we have to jump through, certain processes that we need to follow in order to make that happen. I obviously had no idea what a lot of those things were, and it was a lot of learning for me. And so as I share my story, if you are similar, we're in a similar position, like, no, you're not alone. But also, if you are trying to go get your business license, hopefully that was helpful for you to kind of hear what my journey was. So to learn from my mistakes, let's kind of bring it home with a few things. Some things you're going to have to decide on before you start this process is, what are you going to name your business? There's an amazing podcast that was on Earn Your Leisure's podcast where they talked with Miss Business. She's great on Instagram. I would check out her content for sure. They, will share more about why it's important to start a legal business, and she kind of walks you through things that you need to do to prepare for a smooth and quick process. So, and one of the first things that she says is you need to figure out what you're going to name your business. You don't want to be in a situation where it's like you name your business one thing and then years later you end up wanting to change it. Like, you can change it, but there's going to be fees to change the name. It might be difficult to go through that process. You're going to have to pay some money. And so don't rush the process of coming up with a business name, but, think about it, because you're starting a business and you don't want to be changing the names all the time. So figure out what you want your business to be. And then the process of this took me about 4 to 6 weeks from start to finish. Day one being like applying for my business license. and then to the last day of getting my business debit card in the mail. So it's going to take about 4 to 6 weeks. Things to prep for would be, do research within your city to see how much your business license is going to cost. Look up to see even where the city's office is located, where the county's office is located. Just do your research online just to see what the process is going to be. So yeah, do your research for sure, just so you kind of understand what you're getting yourself into. Also, I would talk to someone who's done it before, especially in your city. Whether they're another barber that's gone through this process, maybe they're a shop owner. If they're a shop owner, then they definitely had to go through the process, or they should have at least. Or if it's another small business that's in town, maybe it's not a barber shop, like ask them what the process was that they went through, and just learn from the people within your community. Right? There's probably a friend of yours that's a small business owner that had to go through these things, and they'd be more than happy to share about their process and the things that they learned, especially that's going to be better context for your city. Other things too is, go listen to that Earn Your Leisure podcast episode that I mentioned. They do a much deeper dive into even figuring out what type of business you should start, whether it's a sole proprietor or an LLC or like an S Corp or things of that nature. I would go listen to that podcast also as you're thinking about, your next step. So I share all this just because, it was kind of funny. It was also like facepalm emoji moment, just running around my city, not knowing what the heck I was doing. But hey, I get a chance to kind of laugh at it, and now I can look back and, share things that I learned. So hopefully it was helpful in some way. Yeah. Again, as always, if you did find some value in this episode, feel free to send it to somebody. I would appreciate it. If also go listen to that other episode that I just shared. I'm going to put that in the show notes so you can take a look at that. And talk to you. Hopefully this sparks a good conversation, even with you and your barbers that are at your shop, or just friends that you have if you're in school. Like, start game planning and start, talking to each other. Hey, do you have a license? Like, why don't you? Even just getting to know the reasons for why people are doing what they're doing, so that you can figure out what you want to do for yourself. Cool. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time. Take care. Peace.